Hey there. Welcome to Existential Sunday. Most of you are probably watching this via replay. So, hello to you. If we've not met either on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, my name is Corey, and I am a husband, I'm a father, podcast host. And every week I do this. I sit in this chair in front of this television, and I do this live broadcast called Existential Sunday. And I'm on about 3 minutes early. Okay. So if you're watching this via replay, which most of you do watch via replay, you can fast forward a couple minutes to, so you can get to when I'm talking about stuff. But I came on early today so I could say good morning in person to the handful of folks who came in early. Jennifer Hollingsworth, my dear friend and pastor, is here. Good morning to you. Good morning, Sherry. Who else is here? Get in the comments section so I can say good morning to you guys live. I haven't done this in a while, but I just felt like today I wanted to open the doors of the church early and say good morning to you who are here. So let me see you in the comments section. Saying hello, waving emoji, whatever you got for me this morning. Again, if you're watching replay, you can just fast forward. I'm sorry for this, replay watchers. I know this sucks for you. You can also comment also. Good morning, Monique. Good morning, Kelly. If you're watching the replay, you can also put a good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, and I'll see it and I'll acknowledge that you're there. Good morning, Arnell. All right. Those of you who are here live, and especially those of you that I'm seeing your names there, if you want to, I'm not going to tell you what to do because I'm not the boss of you. You can share this broadcast, like even right now, okay, while I'm drinking water and greeting everyone. You never have to ask me if you can share it. You can share it. Good morning, Nate. Good morning. Hello. Once it gets 9 o'clock, maybe I won't wait till 9. Live. Don L. live from NY. Hello. Good morning. Hello, everyone. Hello. All right. I'm going to go away from the comments now so I can focus. This is this particular thing that I want to talk about today is one of those big things that there's not a great way to talk about it. If I'm being honest, as I have thought about this all week, I have gone down several different roads to arrive at some way of talking about this. And I think if I'm being even more honest, I think that I'd fallen prey to the notion that I'm supposed to give you something that is your big takeaway that solves an issue or a tension or something that you have that lets you walk away with some answers. And then I took a deep breath and realized that that's not my job. This is Existential Sunday. This is about deconstructing. This is about people going through that process of trying to figure out the better world together in community, and it's never simple. In fact, the way I thought about it, this is all free, by the way. The way I thought about it was like this. It's like when you were a little kid, when you first started putting puzzles together, the puzzle pieces were these giant blocks, and there's 4 pieces, and there's the picture, and there's these 4 pieces, and you take those giant blocks and you put them together. Now, it was hard for you when you were a child, and as you got older, those big, simple puzzles were less challenging for you, less interesting. You didn't really care about them. So you moved on to puzzles that were 1,000+ pieces. And when there's 1,000+ pieces to try to put together and make look like that picture over there, there's no way you can take one piece and know exactly where it goes. And I think that when it comes to what we're dealing with in our world today, we're talking about global pandemic, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about racism and xenophobia, and we're talking about where religion fits in the middle of all of this stuff, right? We're talking about these pieces, and we're going, where do they fit? Not to mention the fact that we are moving in the United States into of my lifetime, probably the most important election of our lifetime. In fact, Joe Biden's slogan, I didn't know this was his slogan until I saw it earlier this week, because he's not really been touting it, but is the battle for the soul of a nation. We are talking about an unprecedented type moment in history. And as we are talking about these things, if we try to talk about them in too simplistic of a way, I don't think it serves us well to try to act like we're putting together a children's puzzle when in reality we're putting together an 8 million piece puzzle. And each one of us brings a piece to that to try to construct and contend for a better world. So, that being said, what I'm wrestling with today, right? What I'm trying to work out, I haven't even worked it all out in my own mind and thought process and in my own consciousness. I'm still going like, man, but there's this piece that I don't know where this piece goes. And I thought I knew where it went, but as I look at this picture, it can't go there. And I'm wrestling with that. And today I'm inviting you into that same sort of wrestling. And all this started for me with a couple conversations I had. There was a job opportunity that was on the table for me not too long ago that I turned down pretty early on, and it was been a pretty lucrative situation, I think. But as I started talking more and more to the folks about this job, I began to realize that in order for me to take this job, there was going to be a part of me that I think I would have to leave out of the work. There was going to be a part of who I am, what I believe, what I think that I was going to have to uh, check or put in the trunk of my car before I went into work. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this not too long ago. And I said, I don't know how people are able to do that. I don't know how you go to a job or, you remain a part of a team or you remain a part of a organization, whether it be a church or a mosque or whatever you go to, and find yourself week after week having to go, there's a whole part of me that doesn't fit here, that doesn't like fit in, that doesn't feel at peace. And this person looked across the table at me and said, I do. You lose your soul. You exchange your soul for it. And there's another friend of mine I was talking to that has a pretty important job. And I was, saying, I guess I'll tell you what I was saying. I was saying that I understand why Black folks have a hard time with American Christianity right now, right? I understand it because there is so much, especially in a lot of the mainstream larger mega churches. There's so much that is happening and being said, done, not said, done, that is supporting white supremacy, right? That is has these subtle undertones of anti-blackness. And I'm like, I understand why Black folks can't go to church. And this person said to me, yeah, I do. It's you lose your soul. And ever since those conversations, this is what I've been thinking about, this idea of the soul, right? And what does it even mean? And there's this thing that Jesus said, I think it's in the book of Mark, where he said, what does it profit a person if they gain the entire world? Like you gain everything and lose the soul. And I started thinking, okay, what is and this is what I mean when I say this is a big old thing, right? That I'm only going to scratch the surface of, and hopefully you're going to continue to scratch more of the surface and get down beneath the surface to something real and tangible for you as you ask yourself, what is the soul? What is my soul? What is that thing? And I guess I would say that thing is like it's the thing that makes me me. It's the thing behind what you're seeing right now, right? It's the stuff that makes Corey and makes you you. It's what we have received all of the data from our life in. It's where we hold our memories. It's where we hold our education. It's how we connect with other people. It's where the relationships. It's the thing that draws you to the people that you're drawn to. It's the thing that said yes to the job that you're working now. It's like that thing that is you behind what everyone else sees. It's the fear, the anxiety. It's the container for all of those things, right? That elusive, and even my description of it is just like it's this elusive thing, right? But it's valuable, it's important, and the question of how do I lose it, right? How do I exchange it? How do I become soulless? How does a nation become soulless? How does a nation get to the point where we're talking about a battle for the soul that is lost, a regaining of it? Like how does it happen? What does it mean? And I don't know. Like I don't totally know or totally understand, but where I'm at right now is where I have a couple stories that like kind of help me locate some ideas about this. And then I'm going to take you to a place where I think you can kind of evaluate it at home, but just know that, like, I mean, you watching this, a lot of you guys are very analytical in your brains, and you think, really critically about things, and that's great. I hope you continue to do so because you'll have a piece to this puzzle that I don't have. I'm just giving you my piece. There's two stories that I thought of. One is from the Avengers Endgame. And if you've not seen the Avengers Endgame, you don't plan on seeing it. Okay, so what I'm about to say is clearly a spoiler. If you've never seen it, I mean, I don't even know what you've been doing. I don't know how you haven't seen it. But anyway, let me just stay focused. Okay, there's this scene after Thanos has snapped away half of the world, where he goes back to this place where he had sacrificed his daughter to gain the Soul Stone, ironically enough. And he's talking to like the baby version of his daughter who he'd sacrificed to get the Soul Stone so that he could do the thing that he wanted to do. And she says, "Did you do it?" He says, "Yes." And she said, "What did it cost you?" And he said, "Everything, everything." And I thought about that today, like this, Thanos. I mean, I'm teaching you something about the world from Avengers, okay? And I got to wrestle with the part of me that feels like this is super cheesy to be doing, but I'm just going to continue because I feel like there's something important to be said here, right? If you've seen Endgame, which again, if you haven't, it's your own fault. You know Thanos is driven singularly by one thing and one thing only. And that one thing is enough for him to take his daughter and throw her off of a cliff so he can get that one thing. And I remember, and I've told you guys this before, back in 2016, there were a lot of single issue voters who, over that one thing, were willing to pledge their allegiance to a candidate who was anti me, their friend, and a bunch of other people who look like me. And let me say this, okay? It's not like it's just that it's all black folks and all people who look like me, because as Lindsey Graham said about South Carolina, this was an unfolding, right? This was a moment where I hope you're paying attention. Lindsey Graham said you can go anywhere you want to, young black man, immigrant in South Carolina, as long as you're a conservative. As long as you pledge your allegiance to this thing, you are good. Okay, so there are all these people about 4 years ago who over this one issue said that I don't care if the candidate who I pledge my allegiance to is anti-black, is xenophobic, treats women like they're objects. I don't care about any of those, because this one issue is enough for me to exchange my relationships with immigrants, my relationships with black folks, my relationships with women. I don't care, as long as this one issue, as long as he is going to put some Supreme Court justices over this one issue, and I don't care. And to some degree, this is the price that you paid that maybe you didn't know you were paying at the time. And most of the people watching this are not, I assume, or not, maybe you're sharing it, I don't know. But here's the price that those folks who didn't know that they paid: their soul, their sense of right and wrong, their sense of compassion and grace and love and connection to other people. In fact, there's this story that Jesus told after these two brothers came to him. It's in the book of Luke. There's these two brothers that came to Jesus and they were like, be an arbitrator for us. In essence, they said, we have an inheritance and we can't decide who gets what. So could you help us decide this, right? And they're in this, it seems to be that they're in some sort of bitter rivalry over it, so much so that their relationship to one another is about to be compromised, right? So Jesus looks at them and he says, I'm not an arbitrator. And then he takes this opportunity to tell the whole crowd that he's talking to a story. I'm going to paraphrase this story. There was this man, Jesus says, that like had a bunch of stuff. And he starts having a conversation with himself where he says, I have more stuff than I know what to do with. So I know what I'll do. I'll build bigger barns to have my stuff. And this person worked really hard. And throughout this story, he's talking to himself about what he's going to do with this dilemma. I've got more stuff than I know what to do with, so I'm going to build bigger barns. He builds his bigger barns. He gets to the end of it. And he says, self, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. And then the story takes this turn where Jesus says that God said to this man, you fool, today your soul is required of you. And who will you leave all this stuff to? Now, I used to believe that every one of Jesus's stories was, and I'm laughing because it seems very ridiculous to me now, and I'm not laughing to insult anyone who still thinks this way. I shouldn't say still. I'm sorry. Anyone who thinks this way. I no longer think this way, but I used to believe that every story Jesus was telling was about people going to heaven or hell. Like I was like, oh, this story is about how this person's going to hell because they did something. Or this person's going to heaven because of the other. And upon like doing a little bit more research and reading and studying and trying to understand the words of Jesus a little bit better, to get a bit clearer picture of this massive puzzle that are the words of Jesus and religion and faith and God and all those other things, I started to realize that these stories aren't all strictly about heaven and hell. In fact, most of the time they're not. They're about here. Right now. And in this particular story, the thing I never paid attention to that after reading a scholar talk about this, I became very clear to me was that throughout this story in Luke, this dude continues talking to himself. And he gets to the end of his work that he does by himself without the influence or input of any other people or community or none of that stuff. He had built himself away from people. And at the end, God says, you fool, your soul's required of you. Now, where will you leave? Who is there that you can leave this to? That like this guy got so preoccupied with a singular issue of building his stuff that he didn't even realize that there were people who he had disconnected himself from. And sometimes for all of us, as I land the plane here, right? I'm about to land this plane and I'm about to give you some work to do for like your own evaluation of whether or not you have paid the price of your soul for your party, for your ideology, for your philosophies, whatever it is. Maybe just as singular as for your job. Like, how will you know that the soul is lost? And I would say the way that you know the soul is lost is by your connection or lack thereof to people who can tell you the truth, to people who can like speak to you and look at you and say, I no longer recognize you. Like the people closest to you. Because let's just be clear. I've said this before. There are some people who the more you journey in your life, and as you, especially those of us who are most of us again watching this, I assume are at least somewhat deconstructing, the more when you start to deconstruct from things that you believed as a kid, or people in your life helped you believe certain things. Yeah, there's some folks who will choose to walk away from you because they just can't manage who you've become, or there may be some people who are always trying to change you, and that becomes uncomfortable for you. So you go, look, I'm committed to this deconstructing thing. I I'm just, that's where I'm at. Like I'm processing things about the world, and about other people, and about God. And I, maybe you can't process that with me. That's fine. I no love lost here. I still love you, but like, you coming into my space is harmful. That's one thing, but it's another thing for you to decide that I'm going to choose this thing despite knowing how harmful it is to other people. As another example, the president of the United States choosing a base of people that are hateful and violent over the governor, an actual human being in Michigan. When he decided to spout some words like liberate Michigan, he chose politics over a person's life, because then after people hearing his carelessly divisive words, they plotted to kidnap this woman. When we talk about the soul of a nation, like, we are talking about a nation where people put their ideas about wearing a freaking mask over an actual human being who they plotted to kidnap. Okay, that's the macro. I'm going to bring this to the micro, to the you, to your living room, to your kitchen, to your thoughts, to your heart, to your whatever. I want to bring this to you who are still watching. Those of you, or maybe you guys just tuned in late, you can go back and watch the rest of it. If you're watching this now and you're like leaning in, feel free to share this, because other people may need to lean in also. This morning, before I did this particular talk, I thought, how do I check on my own soul? How do I check on my own sense of who I am? How do I make sure that I'm still Corey? You know, that I still am keeping to the things that I say I value, that I'm, I open this broadcast every week and I say I'm a husband and I'm a father. Every week. The stuff after that sometimes changes, but every week I say I'm a husband and I'm a father, because for the last 20 plus years, since I married my beautiful wife, Julie, and then we started having children, the most important thing to me has been them. And if that's what I believe at my core, then I have to be willing to ask questions of my partner and say, hey, babe, am I still that? Like, as I'm behaving towards you and acting and being and talking to you and treating you, am I still like valuing the husband? Does it seem to you, who's on the receiving end of my husbanding? I just made husband a verb. Does it seem to you that it's still important to me? Hey, kids, does it seem to you that it's still important that your dad be your dad first? Does that still feel important? To people who've known you, to friends who you've known for a long time, here's where you can practice this yourself. Like, do you have people in your life who have been with you for a while, who you trust enough to ask the questions of, hey, like, as you're looking at me, what do you see? Like, here's a question I've asked some friends of mine, right? To sort of evaluate the soul, like to see if I've paid a price not knowing it, to see if I've not known that I have paid the price of a portion of, if not all, my soul. Like, what do you see? And I ask, what is something that you, what's something that you maybe didn't think you could tell me that you've seen, like a blind spot that you thought, I don't know that I can say that to you. Is there anything like that? Is there anything that you see that, like, I say I'm this thing, but what you see from my behavior is this other thing? And then once you ask questions like that, I'm not going to give you a list of questions. Like, your friends know, the things that you should be looking at people and asking them to check on from time to time. Because otherwise, if you're not doing these checks, if you don't have people close enough to you, again, like the guy in Jesus' story, somewhere along the line, there may have been people who could have said to him, hey, I know this project's important to you, but there's some stuff about you that's like being compromised. And maybe you should slow down on this project and breathe a little. Maybe you should slow down on this project and make sure your relationships are okay with other people. Maybe you should slow down on this train that you've jumped on, because your post and your statements and your comments supporting this president, maybe those things are harmful to other people. I mean, this isn't just like other elections and other election seasons, if I might just indulge for a moment and say this. This isn't just like any other time where it's like it's between Ross Perot and Bush and Clinton, like where like these are all politicians and we all say we don't trust any of them, yada, 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 and policies. Like we're talking about like a man who actually says things, and people like Lindsey Graham who say things that are harmful to people who you claim to care about. Like this, like you need people around you who can say, who you'll listen to and not argue with and not push back on, even if you initially disagree. People where you'll go, okay, I hear that. Let me sit with that. Yeah. Okay. Not too long ago, I had a friend of mine tell me I don't go hard enough for Black women. And I thought I'd gone hard for Black women. I thought I was a pretty equal opportunity advocate for the lives of Black people. And this person said, you don't go hard enough for Black women. And I initially had an argument that rose up. But what I said was, you know what, this is good. Look at it. This is soul care. Soul care is not just like, going to a spa or like going to the ocean. Those things are soul care. Those things are taking care of you and giving you an opportunity to breathe and be. Meditation and yoga, all those things are soul care, but it's also soul care for you to allow people to say hard shit to you that like you sit back and go, hurts. I may feel a little bit of embarrassment. Maybe I thought I was doing better, but yeah, I'm gonna sit back. And I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna process this. I'm gonna let this run its course in me and see what it does before I just immediately go, no, that's not me. You're wrong. You don't understand. But I did. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Or worse, you start to go like to other friends to like see if like to kind of like, this person said this, but I think they're wrong. What do you think? Like, or you sort of load it where you don't give permission to just be honest with you about the condition of your soul. So here's your homework before I wrap. Whether you're watching it live or watching it replay, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're watching this from, your homework is this. Find somebody. If it's your partner. And if this conversation is eye-opening enough or leads to some really deep-seated hurt, then go see a counselor. Because some of you may do this, and it may not wind up being like this whole like thing that's like, oh, I feel so great. You may feel terrible, and it may open up some wounds that you didn't know you had with people. There may be some people you've wounded in the course of exchanging your soul for that job, for that promotion, for that political party that you've wounded and harmed. And they're going to tell you some stuff that's painful for you to hear. But it's better than getting to the end and realizing that you spent your whole life doing stuff that didn't really matter as much as the stuff that really does matter. That quote isn't quotable, but I think you know what I'm saying. So find some people who you can evaluate your soul with, ask some hard questions, let them say some hard things to you. It's a partner, do it with your partner. If you have kids, do it with your kids. If you've got people, best friends, people who know you, and let them tell you, and don't be defensive. All right, folks, that is all I have for you. Be looking out this week. Season 4 of Existential, the podcast, starts this week. I didn't really say much about it on the podcast. So, I mean, if you listen to it, you're like, this don't sound like a big deal. Probably doesn't, but it is season 4. William Matthews is my guest this week on the podcast. If you want to listen to the extended version of this podcast, there's 20 whole minutes of extra conversation, like really, really gritty, deep conversation that I have with William after the credits. You can subscribe to the Patreon community. Thank you to all of you who are part of the Patreon community. And if you're a patron and you don't check Patreon, this whole episode is already there. You can listen to it right now. All right. So if you would like to listen to the extended version, you can join our Patreon community, and the link to that should be in the comment section below here, below this broadcast, probably a couple times. So you can click on that link and become a patron. Thank you to all of you who are patrons. I appreciate you. Appreciate all of you who watched this, who commented, who tagged people in the comments below, and who shared it. Thank you. Until next time, grace and peace to all of you.